creates high-speed vehicle dynamics. SimCraft simulator systems enable drivers to develop and enhance their car control skills efficiently and effectively. Any track, any car, any day, all day. DIYSim.com has it all. Please start and finish your sim building experiences with us.
Alright, we've got Kevin Brown behind the wheel of the GSRC BMW, so let's do a lap around Road America. Coming down the front stretch, turn 1 normally wouldn't be a passing zone with it being a fast right-hander, but the long pit straight means there's plenty of braking to give you a chance to get by. Watch out for drivers who drift wide though. 2 wheels in the grass can send you straight into the barrier to your right. From there we head downhill to 3. This is one of the more crucial corners to get right. The most important thing about it is the exit, because it's another long acceleration zone afterwards. Slow in, fast out was never more true. Now we've got the moraine sweep. These little bends mean you need to be very aware of the drivers around you, lest you drift into your competitor's lane. Coming up though is the left-hander of 5. This is a very popular overtaking spot, but also where many drivers outbrake themselves. Keep half an eye on your mirrors. Then it's uphill to 6. This crest makes it very easy to lock the brakes. It's also really blind. You don't see your turn-in until you're right on top of it. After that, we've got the hurry downs. Just a lift through that fast kink of 7, and we fly downhill to another potential passing zone. Turn 8 will see some guys make an ambitious move here or there. If you catch the guy in front of you sleeping, it's not out of the question to nab a position. Then we fly around the infamous carousel. Impatient drivers will get a terrible launch compared to the ones waiting on a feathered throttle. But if you get a run, you gotta be brave, because too wide through the kink is a crazy game of chicken. It's only a small lift, but go wide and there's mere yards on either side of the track before carbon fiber meets concrete. If an accident unfolds here in traffic, expect multiple drivers to end their day prematurely. From there we straighten out the kettle bottoms and set up for Canada Corner. This is your last good spot in the lap to execute a pass. If we see a draft battle towards the end, guys will be looking to seal the deal here. Then there's 13A. It's blind, fast, and requires a lot of commitment to get the most out of it. It immediately dumps you into the last turn, which has a tricky, curved braking zone. Once again, your exit speed is so much more important than your entry speed. Especially with this huge uphill and long front stretch, you need every inch of oomph your car has got. But that is a lap around Road America. Welcome to Road America, home of Round 5 in the DIYSim.com Z4 Challenge, and you're watching it live on the Global Sim Racing channel. I have to apologize, we had a slight glitch in the audio earlier, but now we are good. I'm your host, Joe Peak. With me in the booth today is Bill Zahn, and standing in for Brian Corwin is Giancarlo Lenzi. Our cameras have been provided by Doug Beard and are directed by Kevin Brown. We've passed the halfway point in the season and have pulled up to the gates of one of the most popular tracks in iRacing. With lots of great passing opportunities here in Elkhart Lake, there's bound to be action all around today. With qualifying wrapping up, however, we are going to read that out real quick, as most everybody has put their laps in, but we'll keep you updated if it changes before the time is up. We've only got about a minute and a half left to go. On provisional pole is Wyatt Gooden. Then in second on the front row is Kevin Vaughn. Behind them in third, it's Leandro Schmidt. Then in fourth, we have Alex Balau. Fifth is Matthew Thill. Sixth is Chris Damron Jr. Seventh is Frank Phillips. And eighth, it's Scott Power. Logan Knapp was qualified ninth. And Matt Malone is 10th, Bill.
In 11th is Kyle. 12th is Joseph Anderson. In the Baker's Dozen spot, it's Craig McKenzie. Donnie Leonard in 14th. John LaBeouf in 15th, followed by Clint Meyer. George Fike fills in the 17th spot. Lee McGovern. Christopher Thompson is 19th, and rounding out the top 20 is Patrick Nguyen. GL?
In the 21st spot, we got Mark Robertson. 22nd, we got Bruce Poole. And 23rd is João Oliveira. And 24th, we have Hiro Kanaya. And in the very last spot is Lance Snyder.
And we've got just about 15 seconds left in qualifying, so that all should be wrapped up. And I haven't seen anybody jumping around, so unless somebody does a really good hot lap here at the end, we should be set with that qualifying grid. So let's talk about the track real quick. Giancarlo, why don't you tell us a little bit of a few of the stats about this place?
Well, it's a 4.048 mile course, or 6.5 kilometers if in Europe. It's 14 turns. It's a very, very popular track. I know I've loved racing here in every single car I've brought here, and I think everybody else in the booth can probably say the same.
Meanwhile, we have the championship, and right now, as you've said before we went live with the audio there, Bill, it seems like Wyatt Gooden has been leading everybody.
He is the Pied Piper. But we have a close battle for second with Leonardo Schmidt, Craig McKenzie, Matt Malone, and Derek Waller, all tightly bunched up for a battle there. But Gooden has figuratively lapped the field. He has a 66-point lead. The most you can score in one race is 65. So another good finish here today, and he can pretty much coast his way to the championship.
In fact, Gooden's won every single race so far in these first 4 races. And as you can see, the grid has been lining up since qualifying is in fact over, with Wyatt there on the pole and Kevin Vaughn lining up next to him. Some stories that we need to watch out for. Draft racing is a big factor always around here, GL.
Draft is probably the biggest thing about this track. The major passing zones are, one, Canada just leading up to Canada Corner, and two is the back straight coming up to the start finish. The guys will be coming out of very tight corners and then going into very tight corners just after Canada Corner to make sure they get those passes in clean and fast.
And then, obviously, Bill, there's that kink with so little runoff back there. And in the past, have been, both in real life and in iRacing, some incidents that have unfolded there.
Yeah, the questions we were talking about in the booth before the race is, will these cars have enough downforce to take that kink flat out? I think if they do, if it's flat out, it's a lot less scary than if they have to lift, because then you're looking at how much do I lift, how little can I lift. Something interesting to watch out for is Wyatt Gooden is certainly fast, but where he is incredibly fast is the first 500 yards of the race. We're talking about a draft. You know, he's been able to break the draft before the second corner, so if these guys can hang close to him here, we might be a little more interesting for us today.
Well, I certainly hope so. And we've seen in the past that Gooden doesn't always have it all his own way. He got really lucky at Mid-Ohio when he made a mistake and gave away the lead. And he was ready to try and fight back for it. He said so himself even. But it was all down to the two drivers in front of him. I believe it was Schmidt and I'm trying to think who else it was. I think it was Vaughn. Yes, Kevin Vaughn was the other one that they actually came together fighting for the lead and went off track after making contact, handing the lead back to Gooden before the race was over. So we'll see if this time Wyatt finally does have to fight for that win, as you can see the cars cycling through, now heading down that moraine sweep and into that very popular passing zone of Turn 5, Giancarlo.
Yeah, one of the more popular passing zones is 3 through 5, which they're coming down right now. I can't believe I missed that one. I'm sorry, guys. So this is probably one of the most popular passing zones. This is a longest straight out of the entire course, and you coming down into this not so tight, but you can make a lot of good inside passes here. And if you don't make a good inside pass, you can do an over-under, which is also another one. You can go on the outside, kind of cut it a little shorter, and still come in on the inside to be on the perfect position for the next corner, which is also an inside turn.
Absolutely. Although, I'm going to kind of keep my eyes open on whether or not guys are going to be able to execute it cleanly through there, because I've seen in a number of series where drivers have tried to make an ambitious pass into there or just simply overshot it and either ran into someone or just completely blew the course and went off into that thankfully paved runoff area, as well as having quite a big sand trap on the outside of that corner too. So guys tend to be safe unless they make contact with another car, but it's not out of the question that it could come to tears there. So we're now coming around the carousel. Very, very long corner, Bill, and very patience trying.
You know, I took a little spin in the BMW today to get a feel for the track because I haven't driven it before, and the carousel literally goes on forever. For those who aren't familiar with it, it's more than 180 degrees. It's probably a 200-degree turn because of the tight entrance that gets into it. It just goes and goes and goes, and I'll tell you, it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, and now we're heading down. You see the cars cycling around that fast right-hand kink there that's going to challenge some of these guys today, especially if they go side by side and down into that other passing zone that GL mentioned in DeCanada Corner, which is definitely a popular one with the drivers. Pace car has only got a few more corners left to go, so I have to ask, GL, who's your pick today?
Oh, geez. I'm going to go... I really want to go with Kevin Vaughn. He's so fast in the SRF. I've watched a few of these races in the Z4. Well, he's had some bad luck, but if Wyatt Gooden bites it or something happens, God forbid, I'm going to go with Kevin Vaughn.
Bill?
I'm liking Mark Zeidler. He is Mr. Excitement, and he puts on a show. If he doesn't win, he's going to be fun to watch. Of course, if he's even in the race. So let me see if he's even here. I don't think he's here. So it would really be an amazing victory. And the green flag.
Yeah, it looks like we've got the green just now, so they are taking off as Wyatt is leading them and got a very good jump, but it's definitely not enough quite yet for Kevin Vaughn to have been lost by him as they head towards turn 1, and it looks like Alex Bilbao is going to go around the outside of Leandro Schmidt, but he goes just a little bit wide and he has to check up, causing Chris Jamron Jr. to have to be checking up as well, and then Matthew Thill loses time, both of them going too wide into turn 3. Meanwhile, just in front of them, Gooden has still got his lead, but is not able to run away from Kevin Vaughn.
And the back of the pack was clean. So far, everybody's clean, all 27 drivers.
Heading down to turn 5, it looks like Gooden is still got Vaughn very close behind them, although they are starting to stretch out from the people behind them with all that battling that was going on. In fact, still going too wide between Matthew Thill and Alex Bilbao. In fact, Thill has managed to get around Bilbao and cuts him off at turn 6. Still some more cars going side by side, most of them starting to slot single file through that slow turn 6, that left-hander, and now the field is heading towards the hurry downs, GL.
Yeah, Kevin Vaughn and Wyatt Gooden are just really tearing away from these guys. Leandro Schmidt, he's only 1.3 seconds back or so, but if he doesn't catch up and loses draft, he'll be fighting with that backpack that's starting to truly train behind him.
And Schmidt actually just went off at the exit of the carousel. That's easy to do if you get greedy, but he's able to hold on to it as now they blast through the kink, and he didn't lose too much time. I guess he kept his foot down because Matthew Thill was not able to make up the time. Now they head towards Canada Corner. How is he going to do under braking? Looks like he closes up, but he's just not close enough to make anything happen in terms of a pass. Most everybody has been driving pretty well. I'm seeing a few little puffs of dirt as everybody's using every inch of track they can, Bill.
Very clean in the back of the pack. And these guys, for most of these races, have been pretty clean as the race starts off here. Let's go ahead and take a quick look back at Craig McKenzie. He's third in the points, actually tied for second in the points right now, currently running in 13th position. He's in a tight battle here for 10th to about 18th place. You see McKenzie in that orange car there. Just behind him, if you want to take a quick look, is all right. Maybe it's not orange, as I hear the director laugh. It's green. Well, let's go to let's go to Donnie Leonard in that banana-flavored car there in 14th place. He's having a great race. And let me go back up to the front with you, Joe.
All right, yes, as mentioned, Donnie Leonard is in the yellow car. The green car is Craig McKenzie. However, just in front of him is Joseph Anderson, who is in an orange car, and he is actually being very closely followed by... And we're going to look at a replay because we just saw Phil actually going slow, and you can see him well off the course. That is at the exit of turn 3. Let's see if we can see what happened there. Now he's approaching it. He was all by himself. He had one car in front of him, just went wide and put a wheel off into the dirt. Very easy to do, but as you can see, it has been costly as he got absolutely freight trained. Well, as Phil is, let's see, where is he? Actually, he's down behind Craig McKenzie, so he's now in 13th place. Those guys are all still very close. In fact, he's in 14th because he's behind Donnie Leonard as they head around the carousel. Look at Leonard taking that wide line, giving himself a nice way to cut in, Bill, as he gets himself a good jump down towards the kink.
Well, Phil will have his work cut out for him here because those drivers ahead of him, Leonard, McKenzie, Anderson, Knapp, those are all, and Matt Malone, those are all tough drivers, so it's not like he's going to be able to just work his way up through the field without a big effort.
And he's taking a look on the inside. Wow, very late dive past Leonard. Makes it stick and then some. Very excellent move. I think Phil might be channeling Zeidler, who you were mentioning earlier, Bill.
He is pulling a Mark Zeidler, and that's one of the reasons I like Zeidler, because he is exciting. And we're going to keep our eye on Phil now and see him work his way through the field. Next on his list is McKenzie in the green car.
Yes, let's stay on this battle, but just an update. Gooden is still up front. In fact, he's pulled a almost nearly 1 second gap over Kevin Vaughn. Kevin is not leading him, but it's still close up there. Meanwhile, with Phil closing up on the back of McKenzie into turn 1, right up on that bumper. Let's see if we can hop on board Phil and see what it's like on his car, GL.
Yeah, we're on board with Phil, and man, look how close those guys are. You've got a truly train of 3 guys close together. You got Donnie Leonard right behind Phil, John LaBath just behind Donnie Leonard by, it looks like he's starting to slow down a little bit from him, about half a second back. And just in front of that, you got Joseph Anderson.
And Phil's making a move now as he looks on the inside of Craig McKenzie, and once again makes it stiff. This is textbook stuff from him. Oh, and there's an accident going on as we just caught that on camera. Craig McKenzie got tipped by, that was Leonard actually, and they just ran into each other once again. Now tipping as, oh, they actually made contact once again as we look at the replay. And that is very close. If we can hop back to that now that we've seen them come together on the replay, as McKenzie is now under threat from Clint Myers, who almost touches him and loses spots to John LaBath as they now head into the carousel, Bill.
You know, that's where the excitement is back there. Those guys have been battling it out the whole race. It's going to be, I think Phil's going to want to get out of there as quickly as possible, get back up with some of the leaders up in front.
Oof, he was doing very clean moves up until there. I'm sorry, that was Phil that I was thinking of that was making the clean moves. Craig McKenzie tried to take advantage of the situation. Or no, I'm sorry, I'm all mixed up. Leonard was trying to take advantage of McKenzie was the actual situation, but couldn't quite make it happen. Something must be up with McKenzie because bad exit out of Canada Corner for him, and now he is under threat from John LaBath. LaBaff going defensive on Clint Myers, and Clint Myers trying to round the outside, but it just doesn't have any room to try and get by LaBaff, but he's going to have the draft, GL, as they head down the front stretch.
Yeah, I'm actually watching the battle up front for 8, 9, and 10 between Matt Malone, Scott Power, and Logan Knapp. And they've got, you know, another 3 cars behind them, which is Joseph Anderson, Matthew Thill. And these guys are really, really going at it hard. You know, Matt Malone was trying to pull a move on Scott Power earlier. He lost a little bit, came back out. And now Scott Power is kind of building a gap between him and Kyle Potts.
And look at Joseph Anderson and Logan Knapp. Oh, and Joseph actually backed out of it. He was getting very close to Knapp coming down into turn 5. And now, who is that behind? That's Matthew Thill coming through once again at turn 5 and making up yet another spot. And he is now into 11.
And Leonard is off the track there. I was watching with Greg McKenzie. They were in a battle. Leonard has put it, I think, in the wall here. He's looping it around right now.
And it looks like, was there contact yet again? We're looking at the replay now. No, absolutely no contact. This time it was Leonard all by himself. It looked close on the replay, but I checked on my screen, and he absolutely did not touch him. So that was driver error right there that we saw. And he is off track. I think his day is done. Yeah, Leonard has now exited. So we are back up with McKenzie, it looks like now.
Yeah, so I'm actually looking at the front here with Kevin Vaughn and Leandro Schmidt. Wyatt Gooden has just pulled a 1.5 seconds between him and Vaughn. Vaughn now is leading Leandro Schmidt, but it looks like Schmidt might be having a little bit more pace under that draft.
It's certainly helping him up. I'm surprised that Vaughn was not able to keep pace with Wyatt Gooden, although he hasn't like completely dropped off there. So he can still get back up into it, especially if Gooden makes a mistake. But he has certainly been Mr. Consistency except for his pit exits.
Vaughn and Schmidt are the only 2 drivers, along with Mark Zeidler, to have 2 podiums this season. So they really are the class of the field short of Wyatt Gooden.
Best of the rest, as they say, and Schmidt is looking to try and step himself up to the middle of the podium here, coming around turn 3, gets a pretty good exit, puts 2 wheels off into the dirt, but it's all good this time, and he's got a little bit of a draft, but it's just not enough to pull in Kevin Vaughn, as he's going to hold station down towards turn 5.
I don't know. I think in the next lap or 2, Schmidt is really going to start catching Vaughn, and it'll be interesting to see who wants to lead and try to catch Gooden. Is Schmidt going to say, you know what, Vaughn, I've got the speed, I've got the pace, I think we can catch Gooden, follow me and take me through it? Or is Vaughn going to be like, no, I want second, I want to keep it through this whole race, and just stay back there, please?
I'm not entirely sure. I know if I was Vaughn, seeing him catch up that quickly as, wow, he really closes under braking. And actually, we've switched over to Patrick Nguyen, who is currently being chased down by Mark Robertson and also trying to challenge João Oliveira just in front of him.
Nguyen is in that very colorful paint scheme today. That's one of the only ones that is not one of the standard DIY paint schemes that these guys are requested to run.
Yes, very lovely looking scheme as he heads around the carousel, and he dropped back just a bit from Oliveira. I thought he was going to be able to challenge, but it doesn't look like it's going to be so. So now Mark Robertson is going to close up to the back of that number 30 car, and let's see if he can get a better run through the kink. Just about even through there. I think you're right that they are flat out through there, as it looks like they've got enough downforce on this baseline setup that they're all running, Bill.
Yeah, and there's a really tight battle. I'm going to take you away here. Let's look at Matthew Thill. Man, there's a tight battle for 11th, 10th, 9th, 8th, and 7th. They've been going at it left and right, and Thill is trying to get around these guys.
Look at everybody weaving, and who is that up front? That is Matt Malone, who is trying to look on the inside of Kyle Potts. He had a draft behind them. We've also got a similar situation. Logan Knapp decides to go defensive on Matthew Thill. Thill tries around the outside anyway, and it looks like he might be able to get it done. In fact, he is clean by before the exit of the corner. That is incredible stuff from Thill. Up ahead of them, you saw that Matt Malone was not able to do it on Kyle Potts, and those two are still in the same position in 8th and 9th. But I think they are going to have Thill all over the back of those cars any moment now.
Yeah, Potts earlier in the lap got off in the grass and was able to save it, lost a position to Power. He was actually running up in 7th spot. These guys have really been going at it, and that was a nice move by Phil.
Absolutely, and they're getting very close, although right now we are watching Kevin Vaughn once again, who actually is behind Leandro Schmidt, so the pass has been made. I'm not exactly sure where that happened. I'm not sure if our director had spotted it. Sounds like it might have happened in turn 5, so it must have been very recent between these guys. Regardless, Schmidt is now into second place, so we have to see, GL, if Vaughn can hold on and if they can chase down Gooden together.
I'm starting to have my doubts. I'm starting to have my doubts about Vaughn. I mean, you know, just watching him go through some of these corners, it looks like Schmidt just has a better line going into these. Maybe Vaughn was just being a little bit too defensive or a little bit early on, and he's kind of run his tires out.
Well, just to add to this, I don't think Vaughn has as much trust in Schmidt as Schmidt has in Vaughn. These two have got together before. If you remember, these are the two guys who were leading ahead of Gooden when they got together, and Vaughn wasn't real happy with Schmidt's move that took them both out.
Well, we are actually back on the battle with Matthew Thill, and just behind him, Matt Malone and Logan Knapp going side by side, both of those orange cars trying to accelerate down. Knapp had a shallower line on the exit and just did not get the speed, but now he's going to have the draft to be able to pull him in, as we see a string of 3 orange cars, actually all 1, 2, 3, and that is for 11th, 12th, and 13th between these guys, I believe.
Man, Till is really taking that rocket and riding it home. I mean, he's just, what, 4 cars in the last 3 laps?
And remember, he started in 5th after that mistake early on, so he is only up to 9th at this point. He's still trying to get by guys that he qualified better than. He hasn't been able to get by Potts quite yet. In fact, Potts is starting to put a challenge on Scott Power, or goes defensive onto turn 5. Potts around the outside. Is he going to be able to do it under braking? They're going to go side by side. Where is Thill in all of this? He's patiently waiting. They get very close. No contact. Just enough room for Potts on the outside. Still going to be side by side in a 6th. Chops them off and they come together. Thill tries to avoid Potts, manages to get by. Is he going to be able to get side by side with Power? No. It just holds back, but wow, I was wondering with how hard those guys were racing, GL, if they were going to be able to hold it together.
That looked like a very light touch, so hopefully Potts didn't get too much damage, because now he's going to be holding up Matt Malone. Or actually, that's not even Matt Malone behind him, that's Logan Knapp. So Logan Knapp actually made his pass on Matt Malone earlier.
Yeah, it seems to have put some distance between himself and Malone, who is now under threat from Joseph Anderson. So these guys are all still together. But I think the person to continue to watch is Thill, who really carries some speed through that kink and is looking for a move down into Canada Corner. It's going to be a long dive if he's able to do it here. Nope, just not close enough as they come into the braking zone. He's going to have to wait possibly for turn 1.
He was really good on the brakes on that corner, though. If you actually watch from the overhead shot, he caught up just another 10th or 2 just to keep him firmly in the draft of Scott Power.
And he is definitely going to have the draft. Very good exit coming out of that final corner down to the front stretch. And look at him closing in as they come up that hill and over the crest. He is going to be able to have it done. And look at that. It looks like Power doesn't even want to bother defending. He knows that this is a slam dunk move for him as Thill gets up alongside in the braking zone. And now Power slots back into line as Thill has moved up into 7th now. Oh, and it's not over yet. He goes defensive as Power tries to come back at him, but it wasn't quite enough, although he's not going to have a good enough exit, and Power is going to be right on top of him, Bill.
Yeah, these guys have been really going at it, and we can keep the camera on them, but I just want to talk about the 3 guys who are ahead of them. We haven't heard much. It's Frank Phillips, Alex Bilbao, and Chris Damon running in 6th, 5th, and 4th. They're ahead of the chaos that's going on behind them.
And almost went 3 wide down into turn 5. Matthew Thill is able to hold on to the position from Scott Power as Kyle Potts almost came into the back of them. In fact, just behind Kyle Potts.
And we got Scott Power off.
Yes, Power seems to have lost control coming out of there. I'm not sure. I didn't quite see on the screen if he dipped. Oh, he didn't even dip a wheel off. He just overcooked that one, GL.
Yeah, I really think that him and coming together with Kyle Potts earlier, he might have had some damage, and that might have also facilitated Matthew Thill's pass on him on that straight.
So Phil up to 7th, and he is trying to chase down Frank Phillips, and it's going to be quite a distance between them. In fact, it looks like it's about 6 seconds right now, so a little bit harder going as he's now back up to where he qualified, essentially.
You got to give Phil some credit, though. He took him a couple laps, but not all that long to get through those drivers, and now he's got, like you said, Powers, and he's got Phillips and Bilal and Damron ahead of him, and then we're looking at podium.
And Bill, we haven't even talked about the other feature in these races, which is the pit stops. And I believe we should be very close to the window. I'm looking at the ticker. We got 27 minutes left, I believe. So, yes, we should be at 15 minutes in is usually when these guys can duck on in.
Now, the question I've got, sorry, Bill, is the question I've got is if can Matthew Bill catch up to Frank Phillips or Alex Bilal in 20 minutes? And unless one of them makes a mistake, he's running about the same lap times as Frank Phillips. So he's running a 206 high-low, and Frank Phillips is kind of a high 206, 207. So I don't think he's gonna be able to catch up to those guys and maybe a 7th place unless some mistakes happen. He's probably going to finish home in around 7th place.
Well, he might have some help because we're watching a battle between Chris Damron Jr. and Alex Bilal. The more those guys fight, the more that Phil is going to be able to start to catch up with him. Same thing with Frank Phillips, who still has a ways up to them. And right now, it looks like Damron has the upper hand as he is in front of Bilal, heading down the hurry downs into turn 8. Now coming up to the carousel, not much that he could do into turn 8 since he wasn't quite close enough, but all he's got to do is get a nice wide exit. Bilal was a little bit early on the gas possibly there, and now he starts to drop back just a little bit. Through the kink is another place that you could possibly gain just a little bit of time. Bilal does not quite hit the apex, but doesn't lose anything. Now heading to Canada Corner, and Bill, I don't think he's going to be able to do anything here. He's still not close enough.
Not yet, but if we can take a second to go back and look at 16, I hate to take away from the action there, but we've got a great battle going. We'd like to give some attention to Yao Oliveira, George Fike, and John LaBeouf. They're back there running 14th, 15th, and 16th. These guys have been going at it. They're not going to be up at the front of the pack. Maybe if they run a long stint, they can lead a lap, but these guys are having a nice battle back here.
And you can see Fike in that orange and maroon car with João Oliveira behind him, and that very brightly colored orange and green car that is trying to chase him down. Not quite close enough also to try and get him right now, but as we've seen, that draft can come into play and just doesn't get a good enough exit to make that draft happen, I think. However, that is John LaBeouf, who just headed into the pits. You can see on your screen.
Yeah, we were talking about that, and it would be just about the time. Now, what has been the strategy for most of the front runners is to run it as long as they can, then do a splash and go at the end. We haven't seen the early pit stop strategy really pay off well yet.
Absolutely, with the traffic coming into play, so those guys want to try and run it as long as they can, so that they don't get stuck in the midst of everybody that's going longer than them. Unlike F1, not everybody has a crew chief telling them where they've got a gap, and some of them might not even know how long the bogey time is for going in and making a pit stop. Meanwhile, let's hop back up front to Wyatt Gooden just for a moment to show that he is in fact leading yet again, and it's by 4 and some seconds over Leandro Schmidt in second, who has actually dropped Kevin Vaughn, GL.
Yeah, he's really fallen back. I mean, I haven't been watching them. I've been kind of focused on that mid-pack battle and kind of following Phil's rise to return or Phoenix Rising, I guess you can call it, from the back of the pack to the middle of the pack. And Kevin Vaughn has just really been dropping back. I think he's really struggling here with the pace of the baseline set, and trying to catch up to Schmidt has just not been fruitful.
Yeah, it seems like maybe he's just a little bit better at that hot lap pace than trying to get an endurance run out of this setup. Now, we talk about the baseline set on these cars, and everybody's running the same set. So talk to us a little bit about what that means for a series like this, and what that can mean for certain drivers, GL.
Oh, drivers, man, this is all about skill. This is, it's not like, oval setups or even, road racing where some guy with really deep setup knowledge can really just outdrive the guy because he's just got a better set. This is all about driver skill. So all these guys are on the same page, and it's all about, you know, who can take the lines the smoothest, who can take the lines the smooth in, fast out, or slow in, fast out, but also being very smooth in your inputs. So a lot of these guys can just drive the wheels off these cars, and that's what it's all about. It's not so much am I a better engineer than the other guy, and am I able to acquire my skill through the setting of the car.
And as you were talking, we are watching Matt Malone and Kyle Potts. Malone going on the outside down to turn 5, trying to make a pass for the 7th position. Or, I'm sorry, the 8th position, actually. He's going to be able to do it around the outside, possibly. Ooh, just a little bit squirrely. They're still going to be side by side up into turn 6, and Potts has decided maybe to give up the ghost. No, it looks like Malone gave him just a little bit of room, but now he's able to slide in the line, finally gets the pass done. And I have to imagine, Giancarlo, that the other feature of everybody being on a fixed setup this way, that some of it is adaptability, because some guys might not like this fixed set, but have to drive it anyways, just like everybody else.
Yeah, I haven't put too much time on the fixed setup for the Z4, but if you can really, if you're a very throttle on kind of oversteer guy, and it sounds like we've got a spinner, it sounds like Mark Robinson has spun into the wall.
Yeah, we just saw him on screen. We're going to pull that replay up, and that was out of the hurry downs. See if we can go back just a little bit farther on that replay. And yeah, he was just a little bit wide. Oh, got squirrely, and the traction control was not enough to save him as he banged it straight on into the wall.
Yeah, I just want to add a couple points here as you're watching the replay there. About the fixed setup, this is not the iRacing baseline setup. The series managers have put together a setup they think that makes for better racing than the baseline setup. And also, if we can take a look at 4th place of Dameron and Bilal, these guys have been battling for quite a while. Dameron has got around Bilal for 4th place and is now about 4 seconds back of Vaughn.
Yeah, and Bilal is really hassling him. You could see on your screen that Dameron was trying to go defensive down into 3. Bilal's still fairly close. He's going to close in down towards 5, but I'm not sure if he's going to be able to catch him. He's definitely pressurizing him, GL, and I think he's looking to hopefully force an error out of him, as now he looks to the inside, and he backs out.
Oh, looks like he just barely got close to almost tap him. And that's what I'm saying about that corner, is sometimes if the guy gives you enough room, you can do an over-under on him. You know, go late on the brakes, get a bit of a better turn in, and then hard on the acceleration, and hope you can ride it all the way through and not, cause an incident.
And man, Bilal was using every inch of the track, almost went off and did a similar thing though to what Mark Robertson did earlier and got his wheels off, but I think he kept it all 4 on, but that is a very risky move out of that fast right-hand kink into the hurry downs.
Now Kyle Potts just made a pit stop. I think he's in the top 10. I think he's the farthest driver up that has made their stop. He's still in 10th. Of course, it hasn't cycled through yet, so it's hard to tell what position he really is in.
Yeah, we've got 20 minutes left to go on the clock, so there's still a fair bit of time left. I believe there is only about 5 minutes or so left that these guys will probably have enough fuel. Usually it's about a 30-minute time that they can make it. So, and we are currently watching, I'm not sure who that is on screen actually. It looks like we're back on Bilal and Dameron.
And it looks like Dameron is just up in Bilal. He's got a second gap now. Did Bilal not get a good enough run off that last corner? It seems like maybe he got some damage or something?
It could have been. I didn't quite see, and I have to apologize if I ever call anybody wrong. I can't quite see some of the text on my screen, unfortunately. But yeah, it looks like Bilal might have just had a bad corner, because before he was all over Dameron's bumper and just was looking for any opportunity to try and get by and pressurize him. Right now, he's, oh wow, he has still dropped back. So maybe you're right. Maybe he has some sort of damage, or just didn't have the pace and the draft was allowing him.
I don't think so, because Dameron was able to run down Bilal and make the pass, so Bilal was just trying to hang on as Dameron was going by. So I think look for Dameron to pull away and now have his sights set on Kevin Vaughn.
Now, speaking of hanging on, I mean, Kevin Vaughn is really trying to hang on to those draft coattails of Schmidt. I mean, he's hovering between the 1.5 to 1.8 second, distance from him, and he's just really struggling. But at the same time, he's keeping that same distance. He's fighting really hard to keep up with Schmidt, but actually it looks like he's increasing his lead.
And somewhere along the line, I think Frank Phillips must have made a mistake because he has slipped back unless he took a pit stop.
He did. He took his pit stop.
Ah, so that's what explained him jumping so far back, because Matthew Thill is now up into 6th, but I believe he has yet to make his stop. So he's still making progress, but I don't think he's caught up to Phillips quite yet. I was trying to keep half an eye as we watch him head through that kink there. But yeah, right now, for those wondering, top 5, Wyatt Gooden in the lead. In second, 5 seconds back, is Leandro Schmidt. Kevin Vaughn is sitting in 3rd, a second back from him. Then Chris Dameron Jr. in 4th, and Alex Bilal sitting in 5th. So it's starting to shake out. Guys are starting to get their little piece of track, GL, and everybody's kind of finding their rhythm at this point, it seems.
Yeah, and speaking of finding rhythm, Phil is just really fighting hard. It looks like, though, he's kind of lost some pace between him and Dameron.
And Phil is in. Also in is Leandro Schmidt and Kevin Vaughn, our 2nd and 3rd place drivers. So top guys are finally pulling in.
This will be really interesting to see where these guys come out. I'm really interested to see if Vaughn is able to jump Schmidt, and if maybe he can try to run it with just a little bit less fuel, but keep the lead.
It's a risky maneuver to try and short fuel it just to try and get that spot. And Bill, you've seen that a number of times in other series with short fueling not paying off like you thought it would.
Well, and there you go. Who's out first? That's the dark car.
That's Bilal, I believe.
Or is that Bilal?
Oh, no,
I'm
sorry. That is Schmidt. Bilal and Schmidt are similarly colored, so that's what confused me there. But it is, in fact, Schmidt who emerged first out of himself and Vaughn.
Which makes me wonder, is Alex Bilal going to pit this lap? Is he going to try to run it one more lap?
Well, he's certainly going to have to spend just slightly less time fueling than them with him making this next lap by. If he can make one more, that'll be even better for him. So we'll have to see with this fuel-thirsty track. I think it will count for these guys to be able to take as little as possible.
So we'll keep an eye on when Bilal does come in. We'll see how he comes out in relationship to Schmidt and Vaughn. And as I'm driving like now with Wyatt Gooden, he is going incredibly slow. Something is wrong with Wyatt Gooden's car. could he have... I'm in the cockpit with him now. He is sputtering.
Oh my goodness. So fuel strategy call has been wrong for Wyatt Gooden.
Now, where is he on the track? This is an awfully long track to sputter around.
He's coming up to the pit. He's coming out to the back straight.
It's going to be very close though, because he has to get up that hill, and Bilal is now into the pit. Where's Gooden? He is trying to work his way up. It's going to be so close if he can make it. He's going to lose so much time coasting to there, GL.
Yeah, we're going to see Schmidt. He is just going to blow right on past him. That's my bet right now. He is losing so much time. Oh no!
I don't think he's going to get there.
Well, he's going to have about 15 minutes to try and make up the time. It'll be interesting to see if maybe he was holding back at all early on. Meanwhile, Bilal is coming towards his pit. Leandro Schmidt is coming up to take the lead away. He will not be scored in the lead this time by, but he...
Goodness dead. That's his race. There is no reset on this. He can't get a new car. He is done.
Oh, well, we said that it's going to take him still continuing on form, and missing a crucial pit stop is definitely not on form. We might have our first new winner in the series, as Leandro Schmidt is currently leading, and Alex Bilal has exited. Where is Kevin Vaughn? Kevin Vaughn is in second. Alex Bilal is in third, and Chris Dameron Jr. is in third, with Alex Bilal having dropped quite a bit.
Well, that puts Bilal. That's fine for Bilal. That means he made up a spot, and he didn't get in front of Dameron, but he's not too far behind. So if the best I guess he can hope for right now is Dameron just doesn't quite have the pace on these new tires, and that he maybe makes a mistake.
Well, as we watch, let's see, we have switched to Kevin Vaughn here. We're seeing our current second place driver try to chase down Leandro Schmidt, and this is going to give him extra incentive at this point, Bill, to try and make up that time. He didn't quite have the pace before. He's got about 4 seconds to make up. The question is, will a potential first place light the fire under him a little more?
Oh, I'd like to keep the viewers involved and keep the drama going. So let's say that Vaughn still has a chance, but 4 seconds is a lot to pick up. Bilal is really struggling too after his stop. He just doesn't seem to have much pace either.
And Wyatt Gooden has been able to get back on track. I think we called it wrong that maybe he actually can get a tow and get his fuel back.
Well, you know, it's not a repair, so maybe he can get a tow and just get gas.
The only thing is, last time by, I think it says, my screen says he was about 1.5 minutes behind the leader. I don't think he's going to be able to make that up in 12 minutes.
Yeah, I think he still needed some help in order to get into that pit and get some fuel in that car. So it definitely took a lot of time away from him to be able to get back out on track.
It will be interesting to see what he can do, but now we have switched to a battle between Craig McKenzie, Logan Knapp, and João Oliveira, and just ahead of them they also have Lance Snyder sitting in 11th, I believe it is actually, because Clint Myers has passed him for that 10th spot. So we've got a number of cars trying to get up into hopefully the top 10 position.
McKenzie has finished every lap that's been on the schedule so far this season, and he only has 14 incidence points. Next to Gooden, that's the best so far in this series.
That might drop a little bit because I believe McKenzie was one of the ones that made contact early on, was he not?
I'm not sure. He might have been.
Well, right now he is hunting down Lance Schneider in that pink and white car, McKenzie in the green and black and white, and he's closing in up towards turn 5. Is he going to make a dive for it as Schneider goes defensive? He's going to stay in line. Wow, almost hit. Just like I was saying before, Logan Knapp blowing the corner, not anticipating and bouncing over the gravel there to get back on. He has lost some positions, but that's exactly what I was talking about, GL. Guys not paying attention to how fast they're going and losing their braking point.
Yeah, it's really hard when you're so close to somebody. You got to make sure that your braking point is not where the car is. So you got to look out to the side. You got to make sure you're using peripheral vision and saying, this is my braking point. I know he's this far ahead and that I can carry this much speed through this corner. And it looks like we've lost Matt Malone, unfortunately, to an internet connection.
Oh, that is heartbreaking so late in the race for Matt Malone, especially after he was having such a good run. In fact, he is pretty high up in the championship. Malone is sitting in 4th right now at 190 points, so this is really going to hurt him with no drop weeks.
That is terrible, terrible, terrible.
Let's take a quick look at Matthew the Thrill Phil and his continuing saga. He's made his way up to 5th, and I'm in the cockpit with him right now. He can actually has Alex Bilal in his sights, so with about 5 minutes left, he's got to make up about 3 seconds. I'm not sure if he's going to be able to do that.
Yeah, Bilal is running some very fast laps. He's running 2:05.9 as his last lap. Phil's last lap was a 2:06.7, so I don't think he quite has the pace to catch up to Bilal.
Well, let's jump back to Craig McKenzie because he's trying to put a move on the outside of Lance Schneider into turn 1, and Schneider breaks way early comparatively. In fact, who is that around the outside of him? That is João Oliveira. And it looks like he wasn't able to do it. He was very ambitious. I don't think he expected him to just break that early.
Now, to put some little interest on McKenzie, he's third in the points right. Actually, I think he's tied for 2nd in the points right now due to consistency. And he's had a top 10 finish in each of the first 4 races. Right now, running 11th. He really would like that spot from Lance Schneider.
Meanwhile, João is on the outside of that's Lance Schneider actually, and just manages to do it on turn 5, going around the outside. Great stuff from him. Gets the pass executed just behind them. They do have Logan Knapp, who blew that same corner earlier, so maybe he is going to look to try and make that position back himself. So things are starting to sort out, and yeah, Craig McKenzie. So actually, this is interesting because Craig McKenzie being a top contender in second, and then Matt Malone being a top contender. That's two of our top guys, or three of them, because Wyatt Gooden also running out of gas. Three of our top five are having a terrible race here halfway through the season.
Well, McKenzie is doing a great job. It's with Myers that he's chasing, and he's right on him right now. He's on him like cheese on a pizza. And I think he's going to get him coming up. He has a nice run out of that corner. I think he has the momentum. Let's keep an eye on McKenzie. He's going to make a move here.
Yeah, it'll be a risky move.
He's going to have to do it around the outside as Clint went defensive, and it looks like he might have tried the over-under. He had the speed, but just had nowhere to go on the exit as they come to 13 and 13A. Not really a passing zone, not advisable to go too wide through there, but I think he's going to get another excellent chance, Giancarlo, coming onto the front stretch.
Yeah, I think a lot of these guys, their strategy should be, don't take any of the passes kind of, unless it's kind of given to you on the infield areas or these hard corners, and really just make sure you're going to get a good run, get it on the straights, pass them down the straights, and then make sure you secure that position before the straight's done.
Absolutely. It's like we keep saying that slow in, fast out, but it really is easier to pass someone on a straightaway than it is through a corner.
Yeah, you want to make sure you're setting yourself up on these inside corners so that you're really thinking about those next corners. Because as you're passing these guys, you don't want to be on the outside for a corner where you want to be on the inside with the preferred line.
And meanwhile, we are looking at, and we just switched actually, we're looking at Logan Knapp, and that is him trying to chase down Lance Schneider, trying to get by around turn 5, but isn't close enough to outbreak him. Now he's close once again, gets a much better exit, tries to take a look coming up to 6. It's a very tricky place to make a pass, and absolutely dive bombs Lance Schneider, but makes it work as he says, out of the way, I am coming through for that 12th or 11th spot, or 12th spot actually.
Yeah, that's some really rough racing. You want to make sure that you really trust the guy in front of you or even behind you, that if they're coming through, that you don't want to be on the inside where they're trying to go, and that you're leaving enough room. Otherwise, you've ended both races.
Well, it is not over between Clint Myers and Craig McKenzie, as now he's got a very good draft heading around the kink. It drops a little bit of time. He looks very unstable through there, but now he is still holding on. Coming up the Canada corner, it's going to take a very large dive. Is Clint going to go defensive once again, coming down to this right-hander? No, he does not, as Craig was not close enough to make anything happen there. Now they are heading once again through 13 and 13A, and come on, Craig, you got to set it up coming into this final corner. Slow in, fast out, buddy. Just got to set up that draft and blow by him.
Yeah, Joe, you've really called it, because as I was watching it, I was almost took the words out of my mouth there as I was frustrated by what McKenzie was doing. Now, I will say one thing for McKenzie. He is a very clean driver, and he is not, I guarantee this, Myers is not going to get punted.
Yeah, if he's going to do it, he's going to execute something that is nice and tidy, that's for sure, as he closes up, takes just a little bit of a peek. Oh, and look, a mistake from Myers as he puts two wheels off into the grass. He just holds onto it. Great driving from him, but unfortunately, it's not enough to keep Craig back as he takes the position easily.
I'm going to give that pass to McKenzie. He forced that to happen. He pressured him. I was saying I was frustrated with the way he was doing it, but maybe he had an idea of what he wanted to do.
Absolutely, make it easy on himself, I guess. Regardless, excellent stuff, as now we have Zhao trying to make a pass on the outside of Myers, coming too wide, down to 5, and clearly outbreaks him. In fact, holding on to the back of McKenzie, and we've even got Logan Knapp behind them, so we've got a 4-car battle, 4-car train now closing up, GL.
Yeah, with Myers really taking that, that spinning those tires, locking it up on the brakes on that first corner, really hats off to him for saving it, because that is tricky to do when you're coming from 150, 160 miles an hour to only 50 or 60. So hats off to him, and really, even though he lost 2 spots, his race didn't end. So good work, Clint.
Better to be at the finish than in the wall, I suppose. And we've got less than 5 minutes to go. Leandro Schmidt is still leading, and he has 4.5 seconds to Kevin Vaughn. So all he has to do is keep those mistakes out like Clint just made that we saw. And you can see, actually, Kevin was weaving out of the line, interestingly, on the front stretch. I'm not sure what he was doing there, but he's got a bit of a gap back to Chris Dameron Jr. and then a gap back to Alex Blau as well, so the front is all pretty separated. I'm curious actually where Gooden is. He is second
20th.
to last on the lead lap. Yeah, as Bill just said, he is 20th place and trying to make his way up. He is behind Lee McGovern, and I think he's going to be able to make some more positions, but I know if I was some of those guys back there, even though it's Wyatt Gooden, I'm not giving up those for anything.
You know, I think we got to tip our hat to Wyatt Gooden there. You know, a lot of guys in this position, a championship like him, as he's going to get around McGovern, I think, here, careful, would just call it a day. But, you know, he's going to go for the points, and that's a champion. That's a nice job, Wyatt.
So yeah, that was awfully close between himself and Lee McGovern, not even inches between them, and with the net code problems, you'd think he'd be just a little bit more wary, but he made it happen. So up to 19th, and up next is Bruce Poole, and oh man, that's going to be about 12 seconds, or 7 seconds that he's going to have to make up there, so I don't think that one's going to happen. Meanwhile, we are still watching, this is Clint Myers, I believe, once again, Logan Knapp.
And just to put a little...
Oh, I'm sorry, Lance Snyder just had a huge spin in 5. Actually, it was a slide, it wasn't a spin. Let's get a replay of that, because we just missed it on screen. That was incredible car handling for him to keep it together there. Coming down to 5, just locked him up possibly, and kept it going in the right direction. Didn't even come to a stop.
To put a final touch on the Thrill Bilal chase, it looks like Thrill is not going to have the pace for Bilal, so Bilal is comfortably in 4th, Thrill I'm sorry, I call him Thrill in 5th, and Frank Phillips looks comfortable in 6th.
Well, a top 5 is nothing to be ashamed of, especially when he started there, so he at least made it back to where he was. So I guess Thrill has earned Thrill as a nickname this time around.
And speaking of Thrill, we've got a nice battle brewing between Joseph Anderson in 8th and Kyle Potts in 7th. Anderson's really caught up to Potts just in the last lap or two, and he's really trying to make it stick to him.
Trying to put that pressure on once again as they come up to the final corner, and we've got about a minute 40 left, so we should actually be getting close to the final lap. I think next time by we should get the white flag. Actually, we're getting word that it could be possibly 2 to go.
I want to go back a few laps ago when we saw Craig McKenzie kind of take up Clint Myers on that turn 1. You know, it's like how Bill was talking about. You know, he was really putting the pressure on, and what you've been talking about, Joe, is putting the pressure on, really making sure that you're putting yourself in his mirror, saying, I'm still here, I'm still real close to you, I want to make this pass. And that inside move that he had put on him actually really helped, because when you're in those mirrors and you start worrying about where he is, you start making more mistakes. And I think now that we've only got a lap left, I hope we see a little bit more of that.
Well, we might see a reversal of that because João Oliveira is now trying to put the pressure on Craig McKenzie. As you can, well, we almost would have seen Craig McKenzie having a bobble out of turn 6 there as we switched cameras. Now we're back on them, and you can see that brightly covered car of João trying to pressurize McKenzie, as we were saying earlier, now coming up to the carousel, and he's got a very small gap between himself and McKenzie, so I think he might be able to do it before this race is over.
You got to get these guys some pressure cookers when they're all done.
Well, they'll be pretty good with them, that's for sure. Here is Schmidt, and it looks like white flag exactly this time. We saw this at Road America where they were right on the money, and it happened once again. So Leandro Schmidt's going to take his final lap. He doesn't really have much of a challenge, so let's jump back to McKenzie, who still has João all over the back of him.
And it looks like Wyatt Gooden has disconnected from the race, unfortunately, so...
Interesting.
I'm not sure about that championship attitude there now, Bill.
Don't do that to me, Wyatt.
Oh, yeah, that's sad to see. I guess he figured he's not going to be able to make up many more positions, and he's certainly not going to be losing a few more because he's only got 2 guys behind him. He's going to lose those two. Sad to see. I prefer to see a driver usually make it all the way to the end like Bill was talking about, regardless of the situation. But let's jump back to that battle between Craig and Zhao.
You know what's interesting about Mackenzie is he was chasing Myers. He was fast in and slow out. That's what was kind of frustrating. But now you can see him that he's going to go defensive here coming up as Olivier is going to go on the outside
Zhao's
of him.
got the inside line, yeah. So he actually didn't go defensive.
Oh,
Zhao, he's going to allow Zhao to have it. Is he going to try and outbreak him? He does just slightly, but Zhao's got the preferred line. They're still going 2 by 2. He's not given up quite yet. Has just enough room on the outside coming up to 6. It's going to be Zhao's corner once again, and Craig is trying to give the over-under. It's right on the bumper. He's going to go side by side up into 7. I was going to say, don't do that, Craig. And now he backs out of it and has to give up the ghost as Zhao gets by for 9th.
That's still a top 10 for Mackenzie, and that keeps the streak 5 in a row going if he can stay ahead of Myers, who's behind him.
Meanwhile, let's go to Leandro Schmidt, because finally, coming onto the front stretch, it took a mistake, but it's all that matters, because that's going to give Leandro the win, his first win in the VSRA DIY Sim.com Z4 Challenge, and he cruises across the line knowing that it's finally his, and only by 4 seconds as Kevin Vaughn comes home in second, and Chris Damron Jr. completes the podium.
Good work to those guys. Hats off to Kevin Vaughn for really sticking it through and not staying too far behind Leandro Schmidt. It's good to see.
I'm sorry, Potts and Anderson have a battle here for 7th and 8th. Maybe we can catch them as they come to the checkered flag here. Potts is leading Anderson by about 2 car lengths.
I don't think it's quite enough. Anderson does have the draft. Oh, maybe I'm going to eat my words here. He's starting to pull in. I don't think he's got far enough. It looks like Potts is going to have that 7th spot. Yes, just nips him. Meanwhile, Craig McKenzie is going to lose out to Zhao. Zhao taking 9th and Craig taking 10th.
Nice clean race.
We're looking to see if we can find any more battles. It looks like things are still completing as we see Fike and LaBath complete their races coming across the line. Just behind them is Patrick Nguyen. Then we've got Bruce Poole, who's actually dropped a spot to Christopher Thompson somewhere along the line. He passed him in that last lap. So Christopher Thompson gets himself 1 more spot in the final lap. And then we've got Lee McGovern, and where is Hiro Kanaya?
He's going to get 20th with Gooden stepping out. That's going to give Hiro a top 20, and he's an old friend of the broadcast here, so it's good to see him in the top 20.
We certainly see him in a lot of series, and he is very much a stalwart. I have to give Hiro credit, because
let's get some camera time for him, director.
Absolutely, we've got him on screen right now, and he's going to be the last car in the lead lap, which is still a job well done. You have to say for Hiro, did not go a lap down in all of that. He's going to be just over 2 minutes behind as he comes around this final corner, and well done to Hiro for getting himself a top 20, I suppose, at least.
There you go.
Well, as we watch him come across the line, they're going to go to break. We're going to come back with some interviews and the unofficial results, so don't go away. Welcome back to Road America. We just watched round 5 in the DIYSim.com Z4 Challenge, and for the first time since the start, we have seen a new winner. That is Leandro Schmidt, who took home the trophy. Kevin Vaughn came in second. Chris Damron Jr. completed the podium in third. Alex Bilal finished fourth. Frank Phillips finished fifth. Then in sixth, it was Matthew Thill. Kyle Potts took home seventh. Then Joseph Anderson in eighth. João Oliveira in ninth, and then Craig McKenzie in 10th, Giancarlo.
And then we got Clint Myers in 11th, Logan Knapp in 12th, Lance Schneider in 13th, John Labath in 14th, George Fike in 15th, and Patrick Wynn in 16th, Bruce Poole in 17th, and Christopher Thompson in 18th, and Lee McGovern in 19th, and Hiro Kanaya rounding out the top 20.
And the Marshal Wyatt Gooden was in 21st, 2 laps down. Mark Robertson in 22nd. 23rd was Matt Malone. That's tough for Matt. He was up in the points. That's going to be a hard little. Gooden and Malone are going to take a little bit of a hit there. Scott Power, 14 laps back in 24th, and rounding out the field, Donnie Leonard, 19 back.
Well, we were hoping to have some of our podium up here, but unfortunately it looks like not too many people have showed up for interviews. We do, however, have Matthew Thill, who had one hell of a run. Matthew, we saw the early mistake that sent you back where you got freight trained, and then you gave us quite a ride watching you climb back up to get sixth. What was it like on board?
Well, overcooked it a little bit going into turn 3, try to keep up with the leaders. We had a good battle going, and just one little touch of the grass will send you spinning. So got to turn right back around and try to charge us back, as quickly as I could. And because of that, took a little bit of gamble in the pits to take a little bit less fuel to save a second or so, and that actually I had to back it down in the last couple of laps to make sure I made it on fuel. So it was a good run overall. Early mistake cost probably a good top 3 finish potentially, but overall I'm pleased with the return.
Yeah, you did a bit of a Mark Zeidler there to get yourself back up into it. I know at one point you had a very hairy moment where I think it was McKenzie, and I can't remember who else actually touched potentially in front of you, and you were able to take a spot from that. Were you kind of keeping an eye on that and thinking something might go down?
Yeah, you're always looking for your spots, and especially when a couple of guys are going side by side between turns 5 and turn 6. There's always that potential of something happens. So it did, and you capitalize on it when you can.
Well, congrats on at least getting back up to 6 after qualifying 5th. I'm sure maybe a little bit more would have been on your hopes, but thanks for coming and talking to us.
No problem. Thanks, guys.
Next up, we have Kyle Potts, and I believe Bill is going to ask him a few questions.
Kyle, I hate to do this to you, but I'm going to give you the obligatory question. You finished 7th. How did your race go?
Well, my race went pretty bad from the start. I came in for practice and was doing pretty well, and about 2 minutes before qualifying, my steering wheel broke. So I struggled with that. I had about the steering radius of a go-kart and no feedback. So that was pretty tough, so I am very pleased with my result today.
Yeah, well, now knowing that, 7th place, congratulations. That's a nice job. How do you like Road America?
See, and that's the problem, because I really like Road America, and I was really, really hoping for a top 5 finish this week. Didn't get in a whole lot of practice, so I guess it's kind of my own fault. But this is one of my favorite tracks, and it's kind of disappointing. But, yeah, I'll take it.
Well, just give you a little information, 7th place, but you did gain on the leader who had trouble with fuel, so you picked up some points towards the front.
Woo! We beat Wyatt. All right.
All right. We'll see you next week, man.
All right. Have a good one, guys.
Joe.
We also have Lance Schneider with us, and boy, this is someone that you'll have to watch out for because Lance qualified 25th, dead last, finished 13th. Lance, that is one incredible run.
Thanks, guys. It was a tough race. I just couldn't get it going in qualifying, but I was happy just to run hard, consistent laps during the race, and all of a sudden I'm near the top. That was surprising.
Were you using the draft at all to try and help work yourself up any of those positions?
Didn't really have any drafting partners early on, but then I think Clint Myers pitted, and I was able to get behind him, get a couple laps in the draft, and then he had an issue. I was able to get by him again, but he eventually got by, and once the draft was lost, it was tough going. I just got overhauled by a few people.
I got to say, you did an excellent job, Lance. Did you find that with your qualifying pace and kind of struggling on those solo laps, did you find during the race that you were able to pick up more of the cues on the laps themselves, kind of the racing line that you needed to take?
Yeah, I got more comfortable. Definitely after the first couple laps, I was able to get comfortable and continuously run, which were for me, good laps, 08, low 08s, and be pretty consistent about it. And I think that also helped moving up. I didn't screw up that much.
Awesome. Well, thanks a lot, and great job.
Thanks, guys. That was a fun race. Hope you all enjoyed it.
I know I certainly enjoyed it. There was a lot of great racing, like I said at the start. Just this track tends to breed it. But we need to sign off, and before we do that, we want to thank a few people. Obviously, thanks to DIYsim.com, the official sponsor of the Z4 Challenge, for putting this on. Also, thanks to the organizers Scott Power and Matt Phil. We need to thank the software and hardware that we use to make these broadcasts possible, and that would be iRacing.com, XSplit, Twitch TV, Audio Technica, and AverMedia. Also, thanks to the team today, Giancarlo, Kevin, and Bill. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, you can find it at www.globalsimracingchannel.com, along with archived races and race highlights. We're also on Twitter at GSR Channel and Facebook at /GlobalSimRacingChannel. Thanks go out to Doug Beard, who creates all the camera sets for the Global Sim Racing Channel, and also a special thank you to Eric Ekholm, who provides music not only here on GSRC, but for TV commercials, movie trailers, iTunes, and Spotify. If you like our music, tell Eric where you heard it at ericekholm.com. Additional thanks to Casey Lalonde, who also provides us with music for the broadcast. You can find more of his music at caseylalonde.bandcamp.com. Our next race in this series is going to be at Daytona's road course. That'll be interesting. It'll be the first time GSRC has run a single class event at that road course. That'll be Sunday, June 22nd at 9 p.m. Eastern. Then, later on this week, we have the iSuper Speedway Series also at Daytona, but that one's at the Oval. That'll be Friday, June 20th at 9 p.m. Eastern. Then we have the Enduro Pro Series going back here to Road America on Saturday, June 21st at 3:45 p.m. UTC. Then we've got the ASRS going to Kentucky Wednesday, June 25th at 9 p.m. Eastern. And the Continental Endurance Sports Car Series will show up at Watkins Glen Saturday, July 12th at 10:30 UTC. Then finally, the Northwest Majors is going to go to Indianapolis for the Brickyard 400 on July 20th at 5:45 p.m. Pacific. But until next time, race clean, race hard, and I'll see you on the track.